through the week, and it's time to begin looking toward the primetime game that's in store for our 5-1 Chicago Bears as they'll be taking on the 4-2 LA Rams on Monday night. I'm Russell DeWitt. Here with me is my co-host Nicholas Moriano. The two of us, we're eager to learn more about our upcoming opponent, a team that we face now for 3 straight years, or we will be facing for 3 straight years in just a few days. So to help us meet the Rams, we have on a special guest. He's been on the show for the last couple of years, and that's Derek Ciapala, from the Rams Talk podcast. Derek, long time no see. How have you been, and how's 2020? And when I ask that question, I already know what's coming my way.
2020, it's been a train wreck. We talking about this is like a train wreck on steroids. I mean, it's been crazy all across the board, and unlike anybody else, it's been a tough year on my end. But I'm glad football's back for that, at least to get that out of the way. And I mean, the Bears-Rams matchup, you're talking about, to me, 2 legacy franchises getting ready to go at it, and I'll always take that one.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game. Another, I think, tough matchup like we've seen over the last couple of seasons. And, Nick, I think your question that we have up top is one to really kind of help us kind of set the tone and kind of get the lay of the land. So you want to go ahead and just kind of kick things off or meet the Rams?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Derek, I think the Bears, they get a lot of criticism for the opponents they have played this season. Detroit, the New York Giants, Atlanta. But the Rams' 4 wins have come against the NFC East, and we don't have to go into in-depth analysis about the NFC East. So I just kind of want to know, how is this Rams team being perceived by the media, the fans, even yourself, just based off of the teams that they have beaten so far this season?
You mean the NFC least?
Basically.
The Rams are a little bit of a mystery, I think. When they've been good, they've looked phenomenal. And they've looked like a team that could make a deep run in the playoffs. When they've not been so good, they've looked like the same team that had struggles last year. And so when people point out, well, the Rams 4-0 against the NFC least, 0-2 against other teams, I look at it and go, okay, well, in those performances against the NFC least, what was the status of those 2 teams then? In week 1 with the Cowboys were a team that were still together. They still had all their parts. They still, that was if you watch that game on national TV, that was actually a good football game. One of the better ones you're going to find for a week 1 game, quite frankly. Next week out, they absolutely dominate the Eagles, an Eagles team that has talent on their home field. So when you look at those 2 games, you can go, you know what, that's a good football team. Then you go to the Buffalo game and think, what the freaking heck was that in the first half? And then that's when you can be reminded of how bad this team can be when things don't go their way. And then, of course, in the second half, they come back and they just destroy the Bills' defense for falling short. So what we're really seeing with this team is a team that will oftentimes play up to their opponents, and sometimes they'll play down their opponents. And because of that, you don't really know. And I think a lot of that comes with youth. People don't realize this Rams team now is the second youngest team in the league. And when you think, well, I got Aaron Donald, you got Jalen Ramsey, and you think these are all stars or veterans. Yes, absolutely. But there's a price to that, and that price comes with the fact that when you have a top-heavy team, you better draft well. And so this team has been stockpiling 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th round picks now for the last couple of drafts, and they're developing these guys quite well, to be honest with you. The number of players on the team in the last couple of years that have left, not made it from the draft, it's abnormally low in comparison to the rest of the NFL. So when you look at that, I just think what you're seeing is a team that has a high ceiling and it's got a low floor, and it's all wrapped in one roster.
Now, Derek, let's look at your offense here for just a little bit. And I actually want to begin with the ground game because unlike in the past when you had Todd Gurley, the guy to be the one end-all be-all running back, this season it looks like you are doing a more by-committee approach. Henderson has about 350 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns. You also have Malcolm Brown. He has 2 scores and 200 yards himself. 2nd-round pick, you're talking about it. You need to keep drafting over there. Cam Akers, he's getting into the mix as well. It does look like as the season's wearing on, things are leaning towards more of Henderson becoming that guy. But as we're entering this week, what's your take of the Rams rushing attack and how the running backs are being used, what they bring to the table, and what we should expect from it on Monday night?
I think the Rams are dramatically underusing the running backs. Part of that may have come because of Cam Akers' injury. He missed a little bit of time. They're still trying to get him back on rotation. Look, none of these guys has the talent of Todd Gurley in his peak. They're not like the elite of the elite of the elite. But every single one of them has something that makes them, in my view, every single one of those three guys can be a 1,000-yard rusher in this league. I really believe that. I've believed that for a long time about Malcolm Brown. And when he does get certain opportunities, he'll show that to you. He's a power guy. He'll go for the extra yard. He'll make a move. And you get a Cam Akers there who's going to be great out of the backfield, good speed, good vision coming out from the backfield into the open field. And then I look at Daryl Henderson, who to me is kind of a star in the making, in that he has so many different tools and he seems to get better in terms of every part of his game the more chances you give him. And I think that's what, if you combine those three running backs together, you have a chance to have a team that can really wear teams down, that can really break down defenses and not put Jared Goff in positions where he has to win football games. The problem is, while this Rams team is built to run the football, Sean McVay wants to throw.
Yeah, and let's talk about that passing attack. 15th in the NFL in yards per game, about 253, but they are 4th in yards per attempt. And Jared Goff this season's been efficient. He's hitting a higher percentage of throws. I think it's actually one of the highest that he's had in his entire career at about 67% clip. Statistically, he's looking a lot more like the 2018 Jared Goff than the 2019, which I'm sure that makes you excited. So I want to know, what's the driving force behind the success? And I know, Nick, as we're looking at Jared Goff's season, I know you have a big caveat that you want to kind of throw in our way as we kind of frame it for this week specifically.
Well, does Nick want to throw the caveat first? Is that it?
Let's set it up here, Derek, because Jared Goff is having a better season, but against the Bears, and in those two games, the past 2 years, he has not performed very well. You just look at his numbers, 2019, 11 of 18, 173 yards, 1 interception. The Rams do win, 17-7. 2018, 20 of 44, 180 yards, no touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. The Rams lose. So I guess what are you expecting really from Goff, given this season and also the 2 years prior to how he's performed against the Bears in this matchup on Monday night?
Well, I'm going to kind of look back on the 2019 game and call that on you a little bit, because that game was a specific game plan. Jared Goff wasn't going to be throwing 30 passes that day unless he had to be. The Rams executed their game plan that day to a T. They wanted to keep the ball out of Chicago's hands. They wanted to wear down the Bears defense, try to wear out any kind of rush they're going to bring at them. And they were going to try and push up on the line, and that's what they did. So 11 of 18, 173, they were happy with that because of what they will do in terms of controlling the tempo of the game. Now, if I go back to 2018, this is what my big nightmares with the Bears, and that is that they were able to bring pressure from all sides. They were able to really put, at that point in 2018, Goff hadn't seen a whole lot of pressure. Detroit brought some the week before, and that's where he started seeing some kind of signs of this game plan that beat the Sean McVay offense. And the Bears perfected it. I mean, the Bears defense that day was phenomenal. And that's where we found that the key to beating the Rams then, now, is always going to be stopping the run, force the Rams to have to throw. The more they have to throw, the more of a chance of a rush is gained there. And now you're putting Goff in a position where he cannot rely on what he's best at, which is play action. And I kind of have a problem with even some of our own fan base a little bit on that. They are hard on Goff. And I just keep thinking back. I remember, and I don't think I'm comparing the two in terms of talent, because Peyton Manning is to me a top 5 quarterback in NFL history, and I don't see Jared Goff as becoming that. He may. I mean, the talent, the arm talent's there. But Peyton Manning lived off the play action. Peyton Manning was a guy who, once you got him Edgerrin James, his whole career changed. So I kind of push back on the Jared Goff criticism because every young quarterback needs a running game. And if you're really great at play action, why wouldn't you build a roster around play action to help him foster that talent? So I'm in terms of Jared Goff, the Bears win this game if they do what they did in 2018. Bring pressure, shut down the running game, force McVay to do what McVay does in some situations, which is abandon the run instead of focusing on the run.
Now, for the Bears, we've had a hard time stopping the run this year compared to some previous seasons, which I think could open things up a little bit for you guys. In terms of applying pressure on Goff, I think Nick and I, watching these games over the last couple of years, just like you, Derek, that's a key. So when you're looking at your offensive line, how do you feel about it in terms of how they stack up against the Bears? Are there any problem issues up front? Any players specifically you think the Bears have a chance of, I'll say exposing, but how about just taking advantage of?
The tackles. I mean, we have a great left tackle who's ageless at this point. Andrew Whitworth's been phenomenal, but he's been getting caught some penalties here and there, dumb ones, things he probably should be called for, but a little thing here and there, he kind of gets it. On the right-hand side, that's where I have more concerns with Rob Hammerstein and whoever else step in there. Hammerstein got hurt last year and was never really the same when he got back. That said, this Rams offensive line is better than last year's offensive line, and they are getting more push. I still think they have lots of room to grow, but if you're going to attack this Rams offensive line right now, I'm saying get to the tackles. Whitworth's been great. I mean, he's not 25 years old anymore either. Get good power, not good power, good speed rush off the edge on him, and he's going to have his struggles. So, I mean, take it what it's worth. I just think the Rams aren't going to focus on that. I think the Rams are going to zero in on the run. I think the Rams are going to have really big – they're going to have a chip on the shoulder. They know they messed up with the 49ers. They know that they abandoned the running game too early and put the team in a bad position, and I look for them to try and establish the run early.
Yeah, Derek, now to kind of transition to that Rams defense, a guy that Bears fans are going to be familiar with seeing on the field is Leonard Floyd. He has the second most tackles for loss with 4 for the Rams and has the second most sacks with 2 behind, of course, Aaron Donald. What has been your assessment of Leonard Floyd this season?
Inconsistent.
Fair.
Sounds about right.
Inconsistent. He's great some days. He's not some others. And honestly, when I talk with Bears people when the signing happened, that was the feel I had for him. It didn't shock me. I think I remember when we talked last year, Will, I think when the subject of Leonard Floyd came up, you told me inconsistent, and I see talent there. I see pass rush talent there. The problem with the Rams right now defensively with Leonard Floyd and with the entire pass rush is they're not consistent behind Aaron Donald. When they get consistent and actually provide a threat beyond Aaron Donald, then this defense can develop into something special.
Yeah. How do you feel about Leonard Floyd? It seems like they drop him in coverage too a decent amount, which is something that kind of baffled us for some time in Chicago, but it seems like it's a skill set he has and defenses want to utilize.
They have to, actually.
Okay.
They have to. I mean, their inside linebackers are a train wreck. Okay, and some of it is youth, and some of it is lack of athleticism. Michael Kaiser's inside the middle right there, and he is a tackling machine, but he's also a guy who makes a lot of mistakes. His angles makes a lot of mistakes getting the plays. Basically, he's a youth. He's young, and he lacks athleticism. That forces the Rams to have to change what they're doing with guys beside him, and that's going to be Floyd. All of a sudden, is going to be going out there and pass coverage once in a while. And another part is deception. They want to try and create some deception on the defensive line in the front 7 to provide some pass rush opportunities elsewhere. And sometimes it worked, and a lot of times it doesn't.
So with Aaron Donald, we have to talk about him. He's playing at an ungodly level yet again. Is this the best that you've seen him play so far?
No.
No?
No. And I'd say the year he got 20 and a half was the best I've seen. And, this year, it's kind of hard to get a good judgment on him because, and even times last year, he hasn't had a whole lot of support. You have Michael Brockers in the line, a former first-round pick, and you would think that this guy would be able to help provide some pressure there. He doesn't. You drafted Greg Gaines a couple years ago, developmental tackle, and he doesn't become what you need him to be. Sebastian Joseph Day is improving. He's an NFL starter in my view, but he has not really provided a pass rush with him. And so you're putting Aaron Donald in a position where teams are going to double, triple, and sometimes even quadruple team him and just neutralize him and not worry about a pass rush coming elsewhere. So you don't really get to see and enjoy how good he is, because a lot of times I'm seeing him stood up the line because he's taking on 4 dudes. And that's kind of the shame of it. And then the 20.5 sack year, he had people with him that could provide a rush at different angles, and now you don't get that.
Yeah, I can understand why that is limiting. Just looking at your front seven, you mentioned the inside linebacker is probably the weakness there, but in terms of playing as a unit, just outside the top 10 against the run, you have 20 sacks already this year, 26 tackles for a loss this season
Fool's
already. Gold. What was that?
Fool's gold.
Fool's gold?
Fool's gold.
Don't buy into it?
Well, and the reason being is that a lot of those numbers came against the Redskins, against that weak sauce Redskins offensive line. And that was one of the times where the Rams had gotten out to a big enough lead to where they could take some risks and really kind of push people. Like they had Troy Reader, who, by the way, is absolutely horrid most of the time in the middle, but they were able to bring him to the line and work some of his pass rushing in. And that's what opened up a lot of things for Aaron Donald. So it's really only in specific situations that are as dominant as they look. The rush defense is actually hot garbage. Teams don't run against them. And I don't know why. When they do, teams will get yardage on them. And I've seen this throughout the year over and over again. Teams will get yardage on them, and they'll back off when I would be attacking you hard. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they feel they need to challenge Jalen Ramsey. I think they feel encouraged that Aaron Donald's not getting pressure. But they're staying away. And what the 49ers did on the flip side of it, they had some running lanes, but then they found the short passing game worked much better, kept the pass rush off Jimmy G, and they were able to just do what they want. It's equivalent of a running game.
That's why we bring you on, because then we can learn to see what is truth and what is not based off just from our vantage point all the way over here in Chicago. And Derek, you mentioned teams are passing on you more than they are running, and maybe that's a good thing for opponents or not. When you're looking at your secondary, it seems like your outside corners. Again, seems like. You can tell me what it actually is. Darius Williams, Jalen Ramsey, they're playing well, is how I would classify it. Williams with the 2 picks, leads the team in PBUs. When you're looking at your secondary as a whole, what's the strength, what's the weakness, and just curious if you're just general assessment.
Taylor Rapp's the weakness right now. And it shouldn't really be that way. He's a second-round pick who played very well last year, but he's not a prototypical safety where he is. He's going to be more of an in-the-box kind of guy who'll hit, guy who'll make some plays. And he's been out of assignment quite a bit. So Jordan Fuller, the late-round pick from Ohio State, go Buckeyes, he came in and basically took Rapp's job in training camp. And everybody's like, well, where'd this come from? Well, he showed it right away, week 1, week 2, then he got hurt. And now he's in the IR, and that has really hurt the Rams secondary. Jalen Ramsey is as good as advertised. He's better now than he was at any point last season. Troy Hill's developed into a fine corner, and Darius Williams is an absolute find as an undrafted free agent. So you have good corners. You have one good safety in John Johnson who can change a game. And then you got Taylor Rapp, who has all the talent in the world but hasn't put together yet in the passing game.
Good to know there. Now, a couple more things I want to find out how much weight we should put in. I did notice that the Rams haven't allowed a second-half touchdown since week 3. I know you had Alex Smith with his at Washington. You had the Giants, and then you had the 49ers last week, which weren't really putting their full foot on the gas pedal. Should we take stock in the Rams' ability to make some defensive adjustments at halftime, or is this more just coincidental with the opponents?
It's not coincidental. They're very good with the adjustments. They're very good. If this game is close at halftime, I would expect an absolute war in the second half and a lot of pressure put on the Bears. The way for the Bears to win this game is to come out with their heads on fire and put the Rams in a position where they have to try and come back. If they can do that, where the Rams are trying to come back, the Bears have a much better chance of winning this game. If the Rams can go into halftime with it pretty close or with the lead, it's going to get a lot tougher for them because they are very good at adjustments. This Rams coaching staff, as young as they are, they have their flaws. I'm more than willing to call out McVay on some of those flaws, but when it comes to adjustments, they've gone from to very good in one season.
Interesting to know. And on top of that, the defense is only allowing 19 points per game, fifth in the NFL. I know we've talked about the opponents a lot that you face, and I don't want to make that a common theme here. So can you just tell us the how behind that number? Like, what's that defense's like identity, and how are they suffocating offenses and keeping them out of the end zone?
For the Rams right now, it's hard to say. To me, their most impressive defensive performance this year was the Cowboys game, and that was in Week 1. That was an offense that had weapons. They had a great game plan. So you come out, they shut the Eagles down the following week, but Wentz has never been the same since he got hurt. You look at the Bills, and they really did a great job in the Bills game getting pressure, adjustments. So it's really hard to say with this Rams defense. They're not very good against the run. They're not going to be very good against the run. They don't have that with them being so top heavy in salary. They're not able to go out there and go get a monster in the middle of their defense to be that guy. They have to develop them. So I think what really sets them apart is in critical situations, guys have made plays. Whether it's been John Johnson or Jordan Fuller or Jalen Ramsey, they've made plays. Their corners will tackle. They don't run from contact. Their safeties will tackle. So they're a team that will get in there and try and break up a pass play. They'll get in there. They'll get an interception. So that's what's really made the Rams defense good. Now, if they by chance can find some kind of miracle in the middle and create some pass rush, then they can become great.
Derek, I kind of wanted to talk about Brandon Staley, who Bears fans should be familiar with, was on the team 2017, part of the 2018 team that had that phenomenal defense. And you just kind of mentioned, like, this Rams defense has ups and downs, but makes plays in crucial moments. What has been your assessment of Brandon Staley's job as a defensive coordinator for the Rams?
I think it's still up in the air. I like a lot of the things he's done in terms of he's done a good job of covering the team's weaknesses. I'm still waiting to see how these young guys develop under him before I really kind of make a judgment call. I'll say his adjustments have been very good. Or, a lot of questions were asked, why would the Rams let Wade Phillips go? Well, I don't know. I mean, has Wade Phillips caught on with anybody else by chance?
I don't think so.
I mean, that I think should say something, and I don't want in any kind of way disparage Wade Phillips. So Wade Phillips focusing on fundamentals, but when it came down to critical games last year, like the Dallas game, like the Baltimore game, like the Tampa game, in all those situations, the Rams got blown off the ball, and they did not make any real adjustments in game. So I think what we've seen with Staley is what we heard from McVay when he hired Staley, which he wanted a coordinator who can match up with people schematically, make adjustments, and basically find something that fits more his mold, not just work on fundamentals, but work in the chess game as well. And I think they found that in Staley. I'm not sure if Staley's going to be a long-term answer. I know that when the team hired him, I know some of the experts out there kind of questioned his actual abilities as defensive coordinator. We'll find out. But I think he's done a solid job in being the guy who makes adjustments and gets some things done.
Derek, let's kind of take a step back, look at the entire team as a whole. Are there any under-the-radar names to keep an eye out for offense, defense? I know people know about Kupp and Woods. I know one of my 2017 draft crushes, Josh Reynolds, seems to be putting together a pretty decent start to the season compared to what he's done so far in his career, which makes me happy. I hope it doesn't happen this week, but is there any other under-the-radar names that Bears fans should just kind of be aware of heading into this game?
Oh, there's a few. Troy Reader on defense is basically a guy who, when forced to man the middle, is he's awful. Okay, but when you adjust him somewhere, put him in a position where he can rush the passer, he becomes dangerous. I look at John Johnson, the back at safety. He's not talked about a whole lot, but he does find a way to make plays in critical situations. And he's not going to be talked about a whole lot when you got Jalen Ramsey out there in the secondary. Offensively, you got a cast of characters that any week the names will change. One week it's going to be Cooper Kupp. The next week it's Robert Woods. The next week the guy who hurt you is Tyler Higbee or Gerald Everett. The thing that's great about this Rams offense when it's on is they got 40 different ways to kill you. We have a lot of talent on that offense. And so it kind of makes it very difficult to answer that question fairly because they have like 40 daggers. They don't have a long sword that would just kill you in one shot. Okay, but they got like 40 different daggers that can hurt you. I guess a name to watch out for. Sooner or later, the Rams are really going to turn him loose. It's going to be Van Jefferson. That's a guy to keep an eye on, I think, because he wowed his team in camp, and he just hasn't really been used all that much yet. He's the future of this team's receiving core.
All right. Is there anything else, Derek, across the board that we haven't hit on yet that you think Bears fans should know about heading into the Rams game Monday night?
I would watch the Rams' demeanor early in this game. My partner in crime on Rams Talk Radio is former Rams defensive back Michael Stewart, and he pointed out some things with Aaron Donald in terms of kind of where he was in the game, in terms of sometimes taking a whole series off against the 49ers, and he kind of found that off-putting. And we saw a lot of the same kind of stuff last year for Todd Gurley before Todd Gurley moved on, and they're like, well, Mike, you're nuts. And I'm not sure I really buy what Mike is trying to say there, that there might be some dissension with the Rams and Aaron Donald, but it's something to keep an eye on because, it's at least worth observing and see if maybe there's something there. Do I believe it? No, but he does, and I trust Mike a lot.
Well, you have to trust your co-host, and I understand. As difficult as that may be. Oh, wait, Nick, you're still here, are you? He's just nodding in agreement. For those listening, wondering why Nick's silent, he's just nodding over there. So, Derek, you've been on the show for a couple of years now, so you know the drill. We're going to wrap things up here. It's my patented two-part question to wrap up the show. First part is, why do you believe the Rams will win here on Monday night?
I don't know that I do.
I like that answer.
The Bears are always a problem team for them, and their defense provides some unique issues for the Rams offense. So I don't know if they win. If they do win, they come out and they keep the game close early. They control a lot of the clock with the running game. They force the Bears to really, really go at the Rams offense to try and slow them down, get some minutes on the time possession. If the Rams do that, they have a great chance of winning this game.
All right, flip side, what's going to take for the Rams to lose, Bears to win? I think you sprinkled that almost with every answer throughout the show, but I got to make it official.
For the Bears to win this game, it's going to be pressuring Jared Goff, and on offense, it's going to be the running game. This is going to be a time of possession thing. Whichever team in this game can get a hold of the football, control it, and really wear out the opposing defense is going to win this game. And that's why I think the Bears are probably favored. The Bears are better suited to really wear out the Rams, and the Rams are the Bears.
All right. Hey, Derek, this is a lot of fun. Like always, thank you so much for taking the time to hop on our show to help us. I say meet the Rams, but doing this, it almost feels like we're divisional opponents with at least one game every season. So it's more like revisiting or just catching up on the Rams. But like I said, lots of fun as always. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, up next, Nick and I will return for our weekly in-depth game preview podcast. Make sure to rate, review the show on Apple Podcasts to help spread the word of our show. We'll talk to you soon, but until next time, bear down, Chicago.